Yeah, hi there. This is Quick Lab GSP100. This is about creating a Kubernetes cluster in a cloud shell. So, what we are going to do is we are going to use this GKE, which is Google Kubernetes Engine provided by the GCP. And using this, we are going to create a Kubernetes cluster, and then we are going to deploy an application on that Kubernetes cluster. So the advantage of using Kubernetes on the Google Cloud is that it provides facilities like load balancing, node pools, auto scaling, auto upgrade, node repair, logging, and monitoring. So all these details will be covered exclusively in further labs. But for this lab, we are just simply going to create a Kubernetes cluster, and we are going to deploy an application using on that particular Kubernetes cluster. So let's start the lab. So hit on this start lab button. Let's wait for it to come. It will going to cost 1 credit. That is fine. Let it come up. Okay, so I'm connected to GCP. There is GCP console using the credentials which I got here, username, password, and this is the project ID. So now let's go and open up the Cloud Shell. So for this, we have to click on this Activate Cloud Shell button and wait for it to come up. Let's first authorize it. Now this window is open. Let me just set the size to medium. Yep, let's scroll it a little bit up. Okay, first thing is gcloud auth list. This is for the current user. Now gcloud config list project. This is to ensure that we are connected to the correct project. So this project is same as what we are seeing is here. This is a project that was created by the lab. Now we have to set a zone, which is a default compute zone. Let's set it up as US Central 1A. So G cloud config set compute zone as US dash Central 1 and dash A. The US Central 1 is the region and dash A. So A is the zone. So what it makes is US Central 1A as the zone. Yeah. Now we are going to create a GKE cluster. So the command is gcloud container clusters create and the name of the cluster name. So let's clean this up. Gcloud container clusters create name of the cluster. Let's say my cluster. It's going to create a Google Cloud Container Clusters GKE cluster. So by default, it will have 3 nodes in it. Let's wait for it to come up. It will take, I think, a minute or two. Okay, the cluster is created. As you can see here, this is the name of the cluster. It's located in US Central 1A, and this is the version, machine type, and number of nodes is 3. We can quickly cross-check it if we go to scroll down to compute and go to compute engine clusters. So the cluster that we created in this cloud shell, we should be able to see this cluster in the console also. That's the cluster, my cluster, and with all the details. Now the cluster is created. What next as per the lab? Let's check the progress. Okay, so 25 marks. Okay, that is fine. Now we need to get the authentication credentials for the cluster. So we can do that. Gcloud container clusters get credential and cluster name. Gcloud container clusters get credentials and cluster name is my dash cluster. Okay, now after this we can deploy an application to the cluster. So we can do this using the kubectl command. So just like gcloud, kubectl is another utility which is a command line tool for the Kubernetes on Google Cloud. So this is kubectl create deployment, kubectl create. We are going to create a deployment. Name of the deployment is hello dash server, and this is going to create a deployment using image. So we can specify the image, which will be gcr.io. It is going to pick this image from Google repository, Google dash samples hello dash app colon 1.0. The version of the image is 1.0. Let's wait for this deployment to complete. So deployment is created. Now if we go to the workloads, and we should be able to see this deployment that we created. So hello server is the name of the deployment. It says that the resource is the deployment type. This is what we created, and status is okay. So everything is fine with this deployment. Let's check the progress. Now we are going to create a service which will allow you to expose your application to the external traffic. So gcloud expose kubectl expose deployment kubectl expose deployment. Name of the deployment is hello dash server. This is what we are going to expose, and type is load balancer. It's going to create a service. Something is wrong with the command. So kubectl expose deployment, kubectl expose deployment. Name of the deployment is hello server. Type is load balancer, and port. Yeah, port is 8080. Okay, so service is created. Now if we go to service and ingress, we should be able to see this service it got created, which is an external load balancer. This is the one that we had specified here. Okay, now we can just get the service here. Kubectl get service. If we click here in the console, we will see the service details and the external endpoints. So this is the external IP address of this service. This is the same that we get confirmed from the Cloud Shell also. If I click here on this button, we are going to see Hello World version 1.0. So we're able to launch this application successfully using the external IP address. So let's check the progress. Service is created. So we should see an updated score here is 75, and now we're done with the task. We have to just delete the cluster. So gcloud container clusters delete. So gcloud container clusters delete, and name of the cluster is my cluster. So this will delete the Kubernetes cluster that we created. And that's the end of the lab. So after this deletion completes, we can just check my progress, and that should also succeed, and you should see 100% score here. That's it. Thank you.